What is going on, everybody? Welcome to my first review of hopefully many of games coming in the future. Now, this is a game I've been playing quite a bit as of late. 103 hours I've put into this game, and it seems I really wanted to do some sort of review slash achievement looking type of video. I did get every single achievement, and I think what I'm going to do from now on, since this is just the start of this, I'm going to 100% the game and then move forward and do a review. So I'll need all the achievements and then I'll go back and do a review depending on the game. The only thing I'm not going to do that for is FIFA, mainly because I don't play Ultimate Team and FIFA is the main game I play anyway. So this is going to be the first of hopefully many. This is a perfect time for me to finish this game up, considering Assassin's Creed Odyssey comes out tomorrow, and I will 100% that and get it to you hopefully soon enough so we can take a look at how that game is compared to this one as well. But mostly we're going to take a look at the achievements, what I liked, didn't like about the game, and other things of that nature. Just kind of a walkthrough through the game, and then my view on the achievements, difficulty, and mostly just playing on that. We're also going to do it on the DLC, considering I did get the DLC and I did 100% that as well. 1500 out of 1500 points, 67 out of 67 achievements. So let's jump into the review. And by the way, if I sound a little bit off, it is because I'm carrying a bit of a cold, but not too much to do this video. And just a couple more things. If I'm going to not add face cam for these videos just for a little bit, we'll see how we go, see how they progress going forward. But for now, I'm just going to do the voiceover as well. And if any of you didn't or noticed that I didn't do a video yesterday, follow me on Twitter. I'll update everything on there. I've just been feeling a bit under the weather, but well enough hopefully to get this video out to you guys. So follow me on Twitter, get prepared for the review. Well, let's jump into it. So we'll start with the scenery in this game, the graphics and whatnot, which are very beautiful. Day or night, much of the game is absolutely gorgeous. The sight line is a little bit further than I would have expected. In a lot of these open world large games, when you see out into the distance, they tend to fog up pretty quickly, but in this game, very nice. From some of the taller points in the map, you can see almost everything. It's lovely stuff. And as you can see from the images down there in the gameplay in the background, some of these places at night, during the day, either or, are just beautiful to look at. The scenery is absolutely lovely. Now I want to talk a little bit about the base game and the DLC before we get into much more of the video. I just want to talk about the storyline, which was quite good. There's a little bit in there, not too much outside, as they seem to move away from that kind of storyline. After Desmond, it's been here and there with some of the things they offer outside of the world. There was a little tiny bit of a story there, as Desmond came back at the end. I believe that was Desmond. Someone came back at the end and captured or met up with the girl who was in Bayek's and Aya's DNA there in the Animus. But most of the game takes place in Bayek's world, and in Bayek's world it's quite good. Now there's a lot to do. Now to get through the story, you're gonna have to really play some of the side missions to keep up the level, which is good. Of course, you don't want. I'm not one of those people who likes to speed through a game and just play the main story. I like to explore, do a little bit around the world as well. And Assassins kind of makes you do that with the way you level up in this game. You kind of need to get to level 33, 36, that kind of area before you finish the main game off. Now, to get to that point, you're going to need to do a couple of side missions and other things, just complete some areas around the world to get to that point. It's a good way to go about it. It makes you explore the world, and when you're, I don't want to say forced, but when you're moving around the world, it's a lot better. The game feels a lot better when you go about it that way. You explore more, you get into it a little bit more. It doesn't make you do too many out-of-the-way quests. Most of these quests on the side are worth doing, and it doesn't drag you all over the place, and there's not too much as for quests that kind of kill the vibe of the game. They all fit inside the game and they fit in rather well. The XP that you get from completing quests and things of that nature is it's a good sum. You don't feel like you're progressing too slowly throughout the game. As for the story is pretty good. Now, you lose your son at the beginning of the game. He's killed by this group of people that you spend the rest of the game fighting and trying to assassinate as you move forward, trying to eliminate them after they've taken your son from you, which is a noble goal, of course, in said game. But you get to a point where it becomes bigger than you, when like with Cleopatra, when she marries off to the Roman, and it gets bigger than you, and you see the whole picture as you move forward, and eventually you end up forming into what they call the Hidden Ones, which is like an assassin's bureau, and you and I split ways, and it becomes bigger than you, and it's a good way to progress the story. It was very filling, very good at the end, when you're starting to realize that this is a lot bigger than just what happened to your son and what's going on with everybody around the world, and you just push out, and it's almost like you start at a little point and you slowly spread out as the game progresses, and it's a great way to go through a story. It was very well done, and it takes you all over the place, and it's a good story. It's a pretty good story. Now, it's not as linear as you would find in other Assassin's games because of the open world aspect. Mainly, you get to do your fill around the world there, but you can choose when to go forward and when to go back, when to progress and do some of the assassinations, which assassinations you start off with. It's a lot more choice in the matter, and it makes a much smoother campaign. As for the DLC, it was pretty good. The Hidden Ones was okay, not overly large, only $10, very low priced, I suppose. It wasn't overly large, and there were only a couple targets to kill, and they were rather straightforward. The area was pretty neat, though. I enjoyed the area a little bit, but the real DLC came with Curse of the Pharaohs, and that DLC I was rather impressed by. $20 originally for the DLC itself, and it was a rather large map, and as we talked about, 4 afterlives that you could visit, from the different pharaohs that you end up fighting as well. The boss battles in this were a little bit different than you're used to in an Assassin's Creed. They felt almost like Dark Souls battles, almost. Dark Souls boss fights where you had to do a lot of dodging, a lot of timed hits. You can't overcommit to things. You have to be very specific with how you do it. They were a nice change of pace in an Assassin's Creed game, that's for sure. But the area itself and the storyline itself was rather neat for a $20 DLC. I didn't expect this much to come, especially in an Assassin's Creed DLC, but the area, as I said, was large. The storyline was good as you move forward, trying to figure out who was causing these pharaohs to come back, causing the curse to come around Thebes. When you first walk into Thebes, one of the old pharaohs is raised, and they're just killing everybody in its sight. Soldiers, innocent people, you have to defeat it and then move forward and figure out what's going on. It's really different from a normal Assassin's Creed type of thing, and it was a nice fresh change and very welcomed, especially in my view. As I said, the boss battles were really neat, and the afterlives were gorgeous. Some of the places were really, really nice. Nefertiti's afterlife was beautiful with all the grain, and I believe it was Tutankhamun's afterlife with it was night the entire time, and it was lots of cliffs, rocks, but it was also got these big blue flowers all around, and there was some beautiful places in this DLC, and overall the DLC was very, very good. The Hidden Ones, not so much. It was a little bit small. I was expecting a little bit more with the Hidden Ones and a little bit less with the Curse of the Pharaohs, so it was a nice mix in the end. But if you play it straight through, I feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed the Hidden Ones as much if I would have gotten it when it happened. Now that I had it and played it all in one go, I played the base game, then the Hidden Ones, then the Curse of the Pharaohs without wait time. If I would have waited time for the Hidden Ones and then it came out and that was kind of it, I would have been a little bit disappointed, I feel, with the size. But overall, when you add it all together, it's an experience I feel $30 really would have paid for. Alright guys, so let's talk about Discovery Tours, which are a free DLC in the game, but not really much of a gameplay DLC. They're more of a learning kind of DLC where it's almost like a museum tour. You're walking through the Assassin's Creed world, and a commentator is telling you all about some of the things that happened in the daily life back then, some about the building, some about the cities themselves, how they were founded. It's a pretty interesting experience. Now, as far as enjoying something like this, you have to pretty much enjoy that kind of stuff, learning about history, all that sort of thing, which I really do. I really do enjoy history. That's probably my most favorite subject in school, and history is something I currently enjoy, so hopefully you guys would too. But if you go through it, it's definitely something worth looking at. An achievement there where you have to do all 20 daily life tours. They're quite fun, but if you're not someone who enjoys these kind of things, they're definitely not for you. If you don't enjoy the museum kind of tours, learning about old history stuff, or even if you don't feel it's placed in the game properly, it's its own separate thing in the menu. It's not like you have to go into the game and then you come across it mid-game. It's something you can do on your own. It comes with a couple of achievements. Do a discovery tour with 5 of the different characters. You can pick from 30 or something like that. A bunch of different characters that are not really playable in the game, as well as doing all 20 of the daily life discovery tours, which aren't too bad. There are some really long ones, some really short ones, and overall it takes an hour and a half maybe. You can really skip quickly through it, but you have to listen to everything, so there's only so much skipping you can do. But it's a pretty interesting addition to the game, not one you find in too many games nowadays. As for the map itself, it is a pretty massive map. You come to expect pretty large areas from Assassin's Creed games, but this one is very large as they kind of change their focus in the gaming community, and they move their game from what was a smaller kind of assassin filled thing more toward like an open world kind of area a little bit, and they move toward that genre of game. It's a pretty massive area. Even the DLC, not so much the hidden ones, that wasn't huge, but the one in Thebes was rather large. Excuse me for that. Rather large, as you got to visit 4 or 5 afterlives, which all had their own area, as well as being the main area around Thebes, which was also pretty big. This game also entails a decent amount of customization, about as much as you're going to get from an Assassin's Creed game, from the old Assassin's Creed games where you just kind of pick the skin. But in this game, there's a little bit extra in there. As you go forward, there are plenty of skins you can use, plenty of armor types or whatever it may be. A lot of them look really good, and you can see a couple of them as I talk about this. But there's also this option where you can take your headgear off, put it on, change what Bayek's head does look like, with hair and things of that nature. And as I said, the helmet on, helmet off, they're all different kind of headgears depending on which outfit you have. There are also a couple of mounts you can choose from. Some of these mounts are really neat, especially the one from the Thebes Afterlife ones. That the Eternal Maw, I believe it's called. It's a lovely looking horse. I rocked Fangs for the majority of the game until the Eternal Maw came around, and you can also use camels and things. I believe they all travel the same pace, but it's just about look, and some of these look really nice. This also comes in with the weapons you're using as well, considering you can see the weapons you have equipped to you on your back at all times. So going forward, you can see the bow you have, or the swords you have equipped, or the large weapons you have equipped. They're always on you. And the best part about it as well, which is coming with future games, of course, but old games it didn't happen too often. The way your skin is currently going, it comes in the cutscene, which is very nice to look at, especially with some of the later skins you get, like this glowing skin you get, or some of the dark colored ones. They look really neat in cutscenes. So the customization is on a good level. I'm not sure how much more customization you can do in this without it getting too out of control, but as of this game, I think it fits really well. Assassin's Creed also has a new attributes and abilities screen is pretty expansive as well, and if you get the DLC they add a couple in, but the base game one is actually decently expansive, and they all give you a variety of different things like slow motion, if you're attempting to shoot people while jumping off, whether it be a building or anything like that, it goes slow motion for you as you fall. Overpower abilities with your main fighting weapon. But the best thing about it is you can choose the type of character you want. Each of the 3 branches has a master skill that wraps everything up together, and it adds a little bit of percentage to the type of player you want to be. You can always go and get all the abilities, which is no problem, but there are also a couple that you don't need to go and get. As you can see on my ability screen, I didn't really do too much of the seer, which is traps, smoke bombs, decaying traps you put on bodies, sleeping darts, things of that nature. That's on the right side. The top is all hand-to-hand combat, warrior type of things, and then the left-hand side is all bow-based. Since you can carry 2 bows, it's all range-based, and you can build your character up that way. The best part about the ability screen, of course, is being able to build your own type of character. Do you want them to be solely hand-to-hand? Do you want them to be solely range combat? It gives you lots and lots of choices, and you can almost play the game differently. If you're really buffed up on hand-to-hand combat, you can walk into areas and fight your way out. If you buff up all the way on the hunter side of things, you can be more stealth-like. If you buff up on the seer type of stuff there, it's almost like you don't want to be seen whatsoever, and it's almost trap based for everything, and you almost lure everybody in the area into this trap that'll kill them, and you don't have to do any fighting or anything like that, and it's all based on how well you cloak everything around you. The ability screen is very, very well put together, and of course, as I said, they add a couple here and there in the DLCs, but the base one itself, it gives you a wide variety of how you want to play the game and how you end up playing the game. There's also a wide variety of weapon choice when it comes to this game. There are 5 or 6 different types of melee weapons you can have, as well as 4 different types of bows you can use. Now, you can only equip 2 bows and 2 melee weapons at a time, but you can always switch into your gear and go ahead and switch out. But the different types of weapons all have different obstacles and different choices about them, which make them unique, of course. Some of the longer, the melee weapons with a little bit of length to them, spears, they are difficult to use depending on how you play. For me, I'm more of a sword kind of guy. I'm straightforward. It's the most rounded. You can use twin swords as well, which are quicker hits. They deal less damage, but you get more hits in there, and the hits are a lot quicker. The heavy weapons, such as those spears and those heavy blunt weapons, big axes, things of that nature, take longer to swing, but deal more damage, of course. So there's always different types of things you can always get in there, as well as your overpower ability changes depending on how or what weapon you are using as well. As for the bows, the 4 different types of bows are all very unique. One is a predator bow, which you shoot from distance and you can control the arrow, and it's very, very powerful, and you can definitely get it from distance. One of the achievements, of course, is kill a person from 60 meters with a headshot with the bow. You can definitely get some range kills with this, considering especially you don't have to be super accurate with it. All you have to do is aim it as it flies through the air. Light bows are better. Light bows and warrior bows are good for hand-to-hand combat. Warrior bow shoots 5 arrows at once, and you can choose how far back you pull the string there and shoot, and they do more damage depending as well. And later on, you can get a perk that'll cause bleed on enemies that survive it, as well as the light bows that shoot 7 or 8 really, really quick arrows. And depending on how you have it, I have a couple perks in there. The bow itself causes the arrows to be on fire, as well as the perk that allows the hit multipliers to raise the damage. So the more hits you get in a row, the more damage it does. Hunter bows are quite good as well if you're in an area or in a hideout And being stealthy, you can get one-hit kills to the head with those. They're the easiest to control, I feel, when it comes to stealth situations. The Predator bow is more of a distance kind of bow, but the Hunter bow is probably your stealth bow if you're in closer areas. So they're all very, very different, and all the weapons, bows and hand-to-hand combat weapons included, are all very, very different, and they give you a variety of how you want to go about playing this game. They're all very different, and you can adapt your playstyle to it, or you can find a weapon that adapts to your playstyle. Either way, it works out very, very well with either weapon. The crafting system in this is a welcome change. Now, this of course reminds me of how Far Cry does their crafting system. If I can closely compare it to another game, Far Cry would be the one. Especially with the animals that are now placed throughout the world and the hunting you can do. It's a nice little change, and a welcome change at that. I quite enjoy it in Far Cry, and I enjoyed it in this game, going after and doing a little bit of hunting to get the things you want back. Now in the DLC, they step it up a notch, because the only hunting you're really doing is for giant scorpions, and they give you a bit of a fight, but you need some of those shards to upgrade your gear a little bit more. Now the gear, it includes your hidden blade, the amount of health you have, the damage you deal with some of the weapons you have, whether it's bow or hand-to-hand combat. It's a little bit of variety of things, and you can also, as it goes in with the attributes screen, choose how you want to upgrade your person there. If you're all about being stealthy, you upgrade your hidden blade, so some of the larger characters you come along die in one assassination attempt. If you want it on your bow, of course you can put it on there, or on your melee damage. It's all interconnected with the abilities, and it works out really, really well. It just gives you a nice change on how you acquire better gear or anything like that, rather than just coming across it or buying it at the shop. You have to work your way for it, and if you really want to move up there, you can actually stop what you're doing and go work and get your little abilities there moving in the right direction. Assassin's Creed also throws in a couple of new things that you don't see very often in Assassin's Creed titles, especially with the way the fighting system had worked. But with the new fighting system and the new open world RPG feel that Assassin's Creed is now going for, you get mini bosses and large bosses that normally don't happen in Assassin's Creed games. Normally in old Assassin's Creed games you would find the boss, and then if you were going to fight your way through, it'd be very difficult if you missed out on the assassination and things like that. But in this one, with the new fighting system, with the new way the combat goes about, it's a little bit easier to have mini bosses in here, and there are plenty around. Now, as we talked about in the Thebes DLC, the Curse of the Pharaohs, you fight 4 or 5 mini boss pharaohs, if you will. They're a lot like Dark Souls bosses, as we discussed, and the combat works in a situation like that. There are also a couple around the world that show up. They're more like weekly challenges almost. As you can see with some of the large bosses, they test your range and your close-up combat and everything in general. Those larger bosses there give you extra gear and things of that nature, but the fighting style itself causes you to be completely on your feet and learn your way through all of the different types of controls when it comes to combat, as well as the elephants that are placed throughout. I believe there are 3 or 4 total. They're like miniature bosses as well. There are, even in a section, there are 2 you have to face at once, and they all have different types of movements and attacks and things of that nature. But it's a very nice what would you say, addition. It's a very nice addition into Assassin's Creed, these types of things. The way they did this Assassin's Creed in general, it works out to be more toward an RPG style game. Not necessarily an RPG, but an RPG style game. And with all the new additions and things like that, you get little things of this nature, and it's quite good. You also get other things, mini games as things like the Hippodrome. You can do chariot racing in there, or you can do the arena gladiator fights as well. It's all very new additions that work very well with the way and the direction that Assassin's Creed is going. overall, the achievements placed out for you in this game are pretty standard. There are 67 of them for 1,500 total points if you're playing on Xbox, and they're all relatively standard for a game you would find like this. Equip legendary gear in all the slots, reach the highest level, which is 55. It was 40 before the DLC. Craft 20 items. They make you do a variety of different things. Make sure you hit all the aspects of the game. But they also have a couple of situational achievements. Tame a lion and make it fight a crocodile. That's a different one. Poison an enemy level 35 plus and kill him with a torch. There are different achievements like that make you go out of your way and force some situations. Kill 30 enemies by shooting fire arrows at oil jars. So there are a couple of achievements like that where they make you work for it, make you force some things in there, but mostly they're pretty standard, and just playing through the game you'll get almost all of them. As for the most annoying achievement in the game, if you didn't want to give it to Old Habits, considering the length you'd have to go through to go ahead and get that achievement, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Archaeologist, which is complete all daily life tours or discovery tours in the DLC there. And I figured it was the most annoying, mainly because it's not too much of a gameplay kind of thing. It's more of a walk through and listen kind of thing, which, as I said, I don't mind, though it was the last achievement I had, and I'm trying to rush through and get this game done, and so I can get this video out, and it's taken a little bit longer than I would have liked, mainly because I'm ready to rush through. I'm trying to run through it, and it causes you to be slow and more meaningful and pay attention to what's going on. So that's probably the most annoying achievement, though not too bad. As for the funniest achievement of the game, I'm going to have to give it to Run for Your Life, which is run away from 3 hippo fights. And as you can see from the gameplay, those hippos, they run pretty fun. I had a dog. She was a great swimmer, so she had a lot of muscle, but when she got older, she got a bit chunkier. She used to run like that. It's pretty funny watching these hippos run away. As for the longest achievement and the most difficult achievement, Old Habits is going to fall into both of those categories. Old Habits is where you have to go around the entire map, and for every area you find, you have to complete it. Now, we're talking about looting treasure in certain spots, killing the animals in certain spots. There are certain dens and things. Crocodiles, hippos, lions. There are certain areas where there are a bunch of them, and there's one main one you have to kill. We're talking about hideouts, gang hideouts, or soldier hideouts, whatever you want to call it. There's viewpoints, everything, as you can see on the map, and all those little check marks there are places you have to complete. And complete a lot of those places, like the 1-tier difficulty of the hideouts is, you know, kill the captain and loot the treasure. There's one. And then some of the bigger ones have kill the 2 captains, 2 commanders, and loot all 4 to 6 treasure chests within. It's a very long achievement, especially. I mean, that's what took up most of the time in my playtime there. That I said at the beginning of the video, it's taken up a huge chunk of it now. If you wanted to complete this game as quickly as possible, you're better off knowing what you want at the beginning, or what this achievement is right at the beginning. If you go through the entire game like I did, not knowing exactly that you had to do, you go to certain spots to complete certain portions, and you're going to have to go back at the end if you're an achievement kind of guy like I am, and go back and redo all these sections, and it can be a complete pain. You can definitely save a ton of time if you get to it right off the bat and know where and when you want to complete things. And if I would have known about this achievement, I definitely would have completed a lot of these areas. A lot of these areas you don't really need completing. They're just areas you come across. You know, you see treasure sometimes. Sometimes you have the gear you want, and treasure doesn't seem necessary to you. But in this case, it is definitely something you wanted to look at beforehand. It's definitely the longest, as I said. I put it under the most difficult because you have to entertain everything on the map. Now, there's some difficult achievements like kill the elephant mini bosses there, which are pretty difficult, but that also falls under Old Habits. You're gonna have to defeat them to go ahead and beat Old Habits. So I put everything is under Old Habits. So for most difficult, I placed it under there mainly because you're gonna have to get every portion of the map done. As for the few things I didn't like in the Assassin's Creed game, there are only a couple, 2 or 3, that I really didn't enjoy too much. And I'm just going to jump right into them. They're not overly major things, but a couple of minor tweaks here and there which I felt could have really helped out the game. Number one is some of these areas don't have too many viewpoints, if you want to call it that, especially the desert areas, and not that it's obvious a desert area doesn't have too many high points, but some of these areas, they have the desert, and around the area, especially in the lower right hand corner, there's a lot of mountainous areas right outside the desert, and even then there aren't too many high points and viewpoints, and I understand they want to force you to really work your way out there, but we're talking 5 minutes maybe of riding on your horse straight in a direction over a desert, looking for an area after you get past the mountains, which didn't have itself a viewpoint either. Just a little bit more ability to travel around in the desert area will make me want to go through those areas a little bit, other than the sections that show up in the deserts and whatever causes you to go into the desert. There's nothing that really makes me want to go back to those areas. Number two were the tours that you had to take, being an achievement. Now, I don't mind the tours, but it felt more of something that you would choose to do instead if you really enjoyed that type of thing. Being forced to sit through 20 of them really wasn't something at my point in the game I really wanted to do, considering it was the last couple of achievements I was looking to do, and I couldn't do one and then go play and then go back and do one or two and then go play. I was doing 20 straight through, and it was kind of difficult to sit through all that, especially toward the end when I wanted to force my way to the end of the game. Now, the Discovery Life tours, as I said, are something that, if you enjoy that sort of thing, are very nice. It's a very welcome change. I just don't feel it should be forced onto you. That seems more like someone who enjoyed the game and wants to learn more about it. I feel like that's the kind of area that you would really get yourself into. And the third one is just some of the underwater areas. I believe there were 15 or 16 total. They're all pretty much the same. Now, they're all what you have to do, you get over there, you get 2 treasures and a ship that's sunk to the bottom of the area you're in, but they're all pretty much the same visually and conceptually as well. So I feel like there could have been a little bit of a change in a couple of places just to brighten it up a little bit, or make it so that I'm not looking at the same exact thing every time I go underwater and find those treasure chests. But overall, the game was almost completely positive for me. Alright guys, so now on to the rating. I feel like this has been one of the better Assassin's Creed games, and I believe the changes that they've made and pushed forward with, leaving behind the slow, stale Assassin's Creed that it was kind of in the middle, and then it got a little bit better, and then they've moved forward with this big change here. I believe these big changes are pushing Assassin's Creed in the right direction if we want to keep around longevity in a game like this, and I believe all these changes have been quite positive. I'm going to give this game an 8.5 out of 10. The Hidden Ones DLC I'll give a 6.5 out of 10. It wasn't great, it wasn't very long or very large, but it was decent enough, I guess, for $10. The Thebes, the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10 because the DLC was much more than I would have expected and ended up being a lot better than it originally thought it was going to be, especially after the $10 Hidden Ones one, and then the $20 Curse of the Pharaohs came out, and it kind of blew me away of the size and the scope that it actually had. It was a lot larger than I would have originally anticipated, so I believe that was quite good. But overall, an 8.5 out of 10 on this Assassin's Creed. The new one comes out tomorrow for everybody who didn't pre-order the Ultimate Edition and get the 3-day early pass. It comes out tomorrow, and then I'm hoping in a couple weeks we'll get a review out on that Assassin's Creed, and I'm hoping to do more of these videos as we go forward in a variety of different games and see where this takes us, guys. But I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned as we move forward with this series. Hopefully it's hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it becomes a little bit popular here. I really like playing other games, so being given a chance to move outside FIFA, which I really want to do, is nice, and this is the first step in that, and I really hope you folks are in it with me, guys. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more, and peace.